In the very likely scenario that someone's going to walk through that bedroom door, put a gun to my head, and make me decide on 2 lenses that I can keep for the rest of my life, which 2 lenses would I choose? I believe the answer to that question is one that will help a new photographer decide their purchasing options for their first lens. Had I known this when I first began photography, these would have been the first 2 lenses I would have bought. Over my 4 years of shooting pretty seriously, I have purchased, borrowed, resold, and swapped many lenses. The 2 lenses that I would keep forever is an answer distilled throughout this process. It all comes down to use cases. Obviously if you're a bird photographer, your answer will vary from mine. But for me, I do 2 things, generally speaking. One is like street and life photography, and then the other is more client and portraiture work. Given the 2 interests I just mentioned, it's important to me to have at least one lens that covers a wide ground of focal lengths to compensate for the unpredictable nature of the world that I explore. And for the other, I kind of wanted to just do one thing really damn well. All right, so for me, one of those 2 lenses is a really good 24-70 zoom lens. And in my case, it's the Sony G Master Mark II of the 24-70 2.8 aperture zoom lens. And the other has to be a good 1.4 85mm prime lens. And for me, that is the Sigma 1.4 Art prime lens. On the zoom, I can obviously go as wide as 24mm, which is really good for landscape and contextual type images. I don't personally find myself in too many situations where I need something wider than 24, although sometimes for talking head videos, a 20 would be nice, especially walking on the street. Of course, it's nice to have that option, say in like a 16-35 zoom, but since we're only choosing 2 lenses here forever, it still makes more sense for me to do a 24-70. It just covers the more conventional things, at least the things I desire to shoot. On this lens of 24-70, anywhere between 35 to 50 millimeters is sort of my sweet spot for street photography and live photography, as I call it. And really anything over 50 is just good for those subjects that are farther out of reach. And to be able to do all this in a 2.8 aperture, it's just terrific. On the prime, 85 is my favorite fixed focal length. I just get downright excited to use it. I don't know why. Maybe it has something to do with the 1.4 aperture, lets a lot of light in. It is the background blur king. It satisfies my portrait client work, and I really couldn't be happier with it. And the 2 lenses, they cover about 90% of my photography needs. And they cover it damn well. And here's the kicker. Their strengths and use cases, they cross over. The zoom lens I own, it kicks ass at portrait work. It really does. The 24 to 35 gives more of a contextual portrait, which is having the subject and the environment around them. Whereas the 50 to 70 millimeter range is better for more tight and intimate portrait settings. Of course, it's a 2.8 zoom, so it doesn't have the light allowance that say a 1.4 prime lens does. But again, we're choosing 2 lenses forever in this made-up scenario. And 2.8 is more than enough light that I need most of the time. And if it's not enough, then I'll shoot in an area that has more light or wait for a time of day where more light is given. And if you are really feeling like you're missing the background blur that you get from a 1.8 lens on this 2.8 zoom, or your 2.8 24-70 zoom, well, Adobe Lightroom has a lot of background blur features if that's an itch that you really feel like you need to scratch. I'm actually going to be doing a YouTube video on portrait work on a zoom lens here pretty soon. And the 85mm, though it's heavily regarded as a portrait lens, I love this thing for street photography. The compression that you get on the images is unreal. It just looks so sharp and buttery smooth at the same time. Makes you feel like a ninja because you're able to get so far away to get some really cool images. And it can also be used for landscape photography as well. All lenses can be used for all things regardless of who tells you what. The 2.8 24-70 zoom and the 1.4 85 prime, as I said, they get about most of the job done as far as I'm concerned. And they're the two lenses I take with me most times when I travel. I like to travel light, and gone are the days for me of bringing every bit of gear I have. I usually just travel with my body, 24-70 zoom, and an 85. Personally, I think that if you're new to photography, and if you're looking to buy your first lens ever, it is my humble and personal opinion that I think you should buy yourself a zoom lens, preferably in the 24-70 millimeter focal range. If you're shooting on a crop sensor camera, that's going to be equivalent of like 18-50, I believe. And after time of shooting on a zoom lens like that, you're gonna find your focal lengths that you prefer shooting on the most. Then from that point, maybe invest in a prime lens in that focal range. And that's the natural springboard. That's the natural progression that I wish I took. Because when you just buy a random focal length and you don't know anything about that focal length, you're just for some reason beholden to that one focal length, and I don't really think that's confidence inspiring. So get a zoom, find your favorite focal length, and build off of that. So in the very likely scenario that someone will burst in your room, force you to choose between two lenses to keep forever, and only two, which would they be? Leave your answer in the comments below. All I'm trying to do on this YouTube channel is to create a community of like-minded people and to have an ongoing conversation about the things that interest me most. Also, if you could leave a like and hit subscribe, I would appreciate it. I'm still pretty damn new here. Thank you, and until next time, keep busy and keep focusing on what matters most. Bye.